Move to approve.
I gave Mary 2 corrections. One is that the meeting started at 7 o'clock rather than 7:30. And the other was on the top of page 40, it said pressure water instead of pressure washer.
Okay, with those 2 corrections, motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, Mary. Clerk report, please.
Okay. Town clerk's report, September 2018. Excuse me. The subdivision application, $125. Dog licenses, $38.50. Clerk fees for vital statistics, $117.50. Hunting and fishing licenses, $13.01. Total check for general fund, $294.01. Trust and agency escrows for Sun Common for a special permit, $150. G-Tel Cellular for subdivision, $500. Escrow for Stony Creek, $150. Total check for trust and agency, $800. Paid to New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets for dog surcharges, $13. Paid to New York State DEC for hunting and fishing licenses, $222.99. Paid to New York State Department of Health for marriage licenses, $22.50. Paid to Columbia County Solid Waste for bags, $1. Total for September, $1,353.50. That's
Okay.
it. The $1 was killing me. We get no commission on that. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I didn't want to have to put down 5 cents or something. I thought that was ridiculous. But
Thank you. Thank you for the
It was
report,
amazing.
Mary. I'll accept that report.
Okay.
Okay, mail review. What do we have for mail?
I only have from the Office for the Aging, Columbia County Office for the Aging. They are having 2 public hearings on a proposed 2018-2019 annual implementation plan. A plan abstract will be available at the OFA office, 325 Columbia Street, Hudson, after October 1st and at the time of the hearing. Wednesday, October 24th, 11:30 a.m. at the Valatia Senior Center in Valatia, and Thursday, October 25th at 11:30 a.m. at the Copake Town Hall in Copake. Lunch will be served at the conclusion of the hearing. If you plan to stay for the meal, please call the phone number at the applicable location at least 24 hours in advance. And in need of special assistance during the hearing, such as interpretation, please contact OFA at least 7 days prior. If you cannot attend the public hearing and wish to obtain a copy of the abstract, please call the OFA and a copy will be provided to you. It can also be accessed on the homepage, columbiacounty-office-for-the-aging. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what the annual implementation plan
I'm not on
is
that
actually
committee.
all about. It doesn't explain it.
I'd have to find out. I'm not actually, I don't serve on a committee, so I don't have the full details of that.
It might be how they, the food plan, how the Meals on Wheels or something. I don't, if it's involving that. Be interesting. That's all I have.
That's it?
That's everything.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay.
Correspondence for the web committee. Do we have any comments, complaints?
Not yet.
Not yet. Perfect. We're working on that. I'm gonna go over that in a minute, probably.
I'm
Give an
thinking about
update.
it.
All right. Okay, so as I mentioned this evening, I'd like to move on to the park committee presentation. Thank you for everybody coming out this evening. I know you have some information to share with us, and look forward to hearing it. Please proceed, Mary.
Thank you very much. I'm going to stay seated so that I'm not
Okay.
moving here. As you are all aware at this point, we do have the park committee put together, and we have just about everybody here. Who are missing? We're missing Amy and Sarah.
Amy and Sarah.
What about Chrissy?
And Chrissy is not here.
She's here now.
Oh,
She snuck in behind you, Bill.
great.
So, rather good turnout from our committee, who worked very diligently this summer, getting postcards out to everyone who is either a registered voter or a property owner within the town of Clermont. We did exclude parties where the property was named under an estate of so-and-so or attorneys only. Okay. So we tried to make sure we were going to residences that were occupied. So we did get that survey developed and placed out on the web using SurveyMonkey, thank you. And we had over 700 postcards successfully delivered. 118 surveys were complete by September 11th of this past month, which is a 16% response rate, which is very good for simply having a mailing with a web response. Bar graph for you showing the number of people by age group in each of the households responding. We definitely have a larger response from the folks from 31 to 80 years of age. I wasn't expecting the 4-year-olds and 5 to 12-year-olds, but we were just looking for people in the household, and we worked through with that. So almost half of the households do have children, and we came to interpret that the maybe for a number of households with children related to folks who had partial custody of their children or had their grandchildren on a regular basis. How long have you lived in Clermont? Rather clear that most of our respondents have been here a while. And what can we interpret from that? Simply that they know their area and they know what they would like to have. So that was actually a good thing to see.
Mary, is the number on the bottom, is that number of respondents?
Yes.
Okay.
And of your time, how much do you spend in Clermont? We had over 100 folks saying that they were full-time residents, and only a few saying that they were weekend or seasonal. So again, we were getting answers from people who spend most of their time here in Clermont. The other local parks that are popular with Clermont residents are Poets Walk and Clermont State Park. So just to summarize, most of them are older, longtime residents, most of them here full-time, just under half having children. Just a nice walk in the park here. Our question was phrased as, of these items listed, what is your top priority? Is it something?
Top priority, yes.
No.
Neutral, or no.
Or no? What? How do you feel about these? So as top priority, we had over 44 respondents saying walking trails and 37 saying bathrooms, which, I'll be honest, looking at the age grouping did not surprise me.
Makes sense.
So can I ask a question about this chart? So you were only supposed to pick one, is that correct?
Well.
They were able to select top priority more than once.
Right, so clearly many people did.
Many people were selecting.
Okay, but you weren't limited, like, pick 3
No.
or anything like that?
No.
Basically rate each item.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it, thank you.
And did they pick, if they picked the top priority, did they also put yes, or did they leave yes off?
No,
Yes or no?
it was written, it was basically just a very strong yes. In a way that
Somebody didn't check top priority and
It's
yes.
possible
No.
that some people did. and
No, I
Okay.
don't think it's.
It was,
It's not possible.
Oh, you could only choose one?
you could choose one of the four. It was top priority, yes, neutral, no.
Okay, right, so
Okay.
you couldn't select more than one of those buttons.
But you could select top priority on multiple subjects,
Right.
multiple items.
Okay.
So these, and also just note that the order in which they're listed here, it's been sorted by, rank. But they weren't sorted that way. They were randomly listed
Placed.
on the list, so people weren't, just checking the first one that they saw. After we got the results, I sorted it this way so that, just to make it clear
Right.
which things are kind of in the top range, which things are in the middle, and which things are at the bottom. So the things that end up in the middle on this, actually the top ones both have to do with what kind of environment you want, but also the structures end up quite high. Bathrooms, benches, pavilion, those are actually in the top 4 there, in addition to the type of environment. And just note that the lowest ranked ones were baseball field and softball field, and then, soccer and bocce were just about that. Bocce won over
Thank you.
baseball.
Thank you, thank you, I found the bocce ball. But I think it's very interesting that the top 4 all coincide with each other. So in other words, if you want a walking trail, and you want a bench, and you want to spend some time there, it doesn't matter what age you are, you may want to have a bathroom. So,
Right, they're not mutually exclusive. in other
right,
words.
exactly.
Could all happen.
But I think that it strongly came out to people who want to be involved with nature, and that's
Yeah.
really it.
Basically, the top half, other than playground, are
Passive.
passive recreation,
Mhm.
and then the lower half is your active recreation. Here we have it by the yes, no, or neutral. And again, the walking trails and benches, pavilion, picnic tables, interpretive trail come out as items folks are interested in. And the nose got a little heavy on the dog run and tennis courts, baseball field, softball field, and bocce court. Sorry, Phyllis.
Well, at least you know how I voted. My top
So-
priority was
so
the
again,
walking
that
trail
passive-
and then the bocce.
So again, that passive recreation versus active recreation came through.
Right.
And that answers someone's question who wanted to know how we answered this, yes, or neutral, or what?
Then we had the item where you could fill in other responses. What are your favorite qualities of a park? Peaceful setting came out tops. Quiet, restful, reflective. Enjoying our outdoors, scenery, natural spaces, scenic views. Ample parking.
Well, that's
3
only
respondents.
people, Yeah.
But
Habitat for nature, biodiversity. So if you put together birds, wildlife, habitat for nature, scenic, natural space, outdoor, beautiful outdoors, quiet, restful, reflective, again, we're coming back to having passive recreation as opposed to active recreation.
Even all the way over on the right column where
Yeah,
it's
we
just
have-
single responses, it's the same, there's only one that says recreation. And one
Leisure.
that says fun activities.
Fun activity as well.
I wonder
It's
what-
fun to go
I didn't
for a
like
walk.
that. I wonder what that meant.
So, I don't remember the exact layout of the survey when I took it. I basically do, but I think there was just, this is the only write your own response field in the survey.
There
There
is
was-
actually more. Sarah sent me an email yesterday, I think that,
Let's see if I can pull it up, hang on.
there were
Okay.
2 more questions that had to do with, was it, safety somehow was in there? Does anybody have a copy? of
I
the
don't have the
survey?
copy of the, I didn't bring a copy of the survey with me.
Can somebody bring it up? on
Yeah.
their-
We should be able to bring it up.
It's on the
Hang on, let me
website,
get
so
her
I have it.
email.
I guess you guys don't have
Yeah.
laptops with you. And I didn't, those last ones, very few people wrote anything in on, so I didn't include the summary on here. But that might be what you're thinking of, that there were two other questions that had to do, well, one of them was, which we haven't gotten to, is the, are you willing to contribute
Right.
time? or
Here we go.
something. And that is coming up still.
That's like not really visible here.
Oh, that's from
Okay.
her email, right?
This is from her email. General comments. Overall ambiance, peaceful setting, enjoy beautiful outdoors. That was the slide that we just saw. And then there was another one where she sorted it out by plantings and landscape, trees, shade, gardens,
Oh, right.
flowers, fish pond, water element, maintenance. Folks want it well kept, clean, or no maintenance. And the uses, walking trails, paths, 17 people, hiking 4, barbecue picnic area 4, biking 2, walking dogs 2, playground 2, and then apparently individuals did family outdoor activities, athletic fields, bocce, horseshoe, tennis courts, running trails, exercise area, family outdoor activities. And for structures, pavilion, shade structures, benches, bathroom, wheelchair accessible, barbecue picnic area, security cameras, signs. With a note that, not sure for what.
That's right, Poets Walk and Clermont Park, Montgomery Place do not have access to wheelchairs. See, I think especially at our place right here, the wheelchair can be in the parking lot. And there are benches, picnic tables right there, and that's as far as you can go.
In our little playground, you're saying?
No, in
Or-
our
At Clermont State Park.
Clermont State, yeah. But parking is really very important.
Okay. So I was asking because I'd done a custom response and I didn't see it listed here, so I was wondering why. And it appears there were other ones that aren't in the slides, I guess.
Well, she was trying to summarize this.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I wasn't sure if I was the only one, but then I
Right.
saw a number that listed just one of these, so that's why I was not certain.
Sarah was the one who wrote in the email all of the things that she pulled out. And this was her list where she actually summarized the number of respondents who said the things here. So this is the part that I put into the
Okay.
thing. So you're right. There was more to say if I had more slides that just listed all the things people said.
Right, I can understand why you did the cutoff, I just wasn't,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, so that's why you're not seeing it, but
Is it possible she put it under another topic because she understood it to be this?
Maybe, I didn't see a topic that it exactly lined up with, so.
right.
Okay. So, summary of the preferences, walking trails and
Bathrooms.
bathrooms. Yep. Walking trails and bathrooms, so
Benches.
looking for a
and
natural setting, but being able to sit and enjoy it, whether it's on a bench or under a pavilion or at a table. And certainly some interest in sports fields, but less than 10% listed as top priority. So just standard idea of having a trail and having a bench for you. We did have a spot where people could volunteer their time and talent and their money. So we did have respondents offer grant writing, helping to build things at the park, donating professional services, donating funds or helping to raise funds.
To be honest, I didn't see those results. I just said, I assumed people did say yes, so I wrote these because I
Okay.
never did get the final, but I figured.
And one member of the committee has donated her professional services, Amy. She's a horticulturist, full-time at Bard. And also, Louise Callan's husband offered Yes, he did. I don't know what went on at home between you and he, but he did offer something that would go on to the Veterans Memorial.
Oh, no, he just corrected.
He just-
But he corrected it and shaped it so it sounded quite good.
Did people who volunteered, did they give contact information?
No.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they
Sure
did.
they did.
They did?
Yes, they did.
Oh, they did? Oh.
Yes, I'm waiting for the list so I can contact them.
Waiting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Lindsay's the one who did the
Who did the Survey Monkey, so-
so a lot of people here already donated their time too, to
Yeah.
just get the survey done, but this point is that moving forward, there
Right.
are
There are other
who
people interested in working on
would
it.
be willing to help realize this vision that the community has elaborated on here.
And
And
there
there
are
you go.
two other points. Mary, don't shut it off. Could you go back to the age rangers? Because remember you had spoken about the bump?
Yep.
And I think that's quite important to be mentioned here. Yeah, there it is. The bump?
So we are looking between the 31 to 60, there's a large bump there, which reflects our boomers and their younger siblings and that following generation, which is going to, over the next 20 years, obviously pass through. Nationwide, there's an additional bump with the 18 to 30-year-olds that you're now seeing as the millennials and the generation right before them. That's another bump. However, here in Columbia County, we see an exodus of folks that age. So what we're really looking at are seniors and folks who have either stayed here and are raising their kids or are moving in here to raise their kids so that the kids then depart. So basically, if you look at your target population, it's going to be your 31 to 80-year-olds rather than a younger set.
Right, rather than kids.
Your teenagers are going to go off. Your kids, your younger kids, we're already providing some activities for them with having the ball field we have already established, as well as the basketball and the swings.
But it's also a fact, as you had mentioned before at one of our meetings, that there are many younger people who are not staying in Columbia County because they don't
Right.
have work. I think that's really what's important. And also, I think one of the interesting things about the group here is that the age range is reflected in this group exactly on target. Exactly on target. Yep. Not from 4, forget 4 years old.
We don't have any 80-year-olds. on our
5,
team.
5 to 12. But from 19
My mother gave her input.
to
How's that?
80. Okay, to 80, fine. But the group itself was very reflective of that age group. Yeah.
Well, one of the good things about having that particular age group is that fundraising in that age group is a much easier proposition.
Absolutely.
And it'll help.
Is there any, I'm sure it wouldn't take long to go through the numbers, but a percentage that reflects responses as opposed to the age ranges that are here?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Are you saying to be able to correlate age group with what they responded?
Yeah.
There would be a way to do that, I'm sure, with that data.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say, it just takes some number
Manipulation.
manipulation, but I didn't know if you had already done that or not.
We didn't do
No.
that.
Okay.
We didn't try to do that.
Any other questions?
No, I think this obviously is great. Appreciate all the work that everybody's put into this to gather this information, to give us some insight. I know the age range on this slide shows that it's everybody from 31 to 80 in this particular survey. but I'm gonna point out that 16% of the population responded.
Is what?
16% of the population
I never got,
responded.
either by email or in post, a query.
So there, you
I mean,
know,
I'm just one person, but there have to be other people like me.
so I am gonna say, you know, it is a very, you know, you say it's a great turnout for survey. For me, it seems like a very small portion of the town responded. But, you know, obviously the people that
Actually speaking,
responded,
it's a
For
very,
surveys,
Getting
it's
someone
very
to-
high.
Did you send it selectively just to
No.
a
To
random
everybody.
group?
registered voters
Everybody
and
except my
property
mailbox?
owners.
Every registered voter.
Every
Okay.
registered,
Yeah,
every registered voter
Yeah.
and every property owner.
Everybody
What we
got it.
found was that
Except me.
some folks had submitted to one group or the other, one address, and it turned out they had a PO box.
nope.
So,
Same address, 13 years. Phyllis knows, voter.
We didn't receive it either.
I might, but I think the point that you was talking about, Ray, is, I don't know how accurate that is. I think this is a big turnout as far as studies go for a community of this size. I know one other, certain people didn't have access to any technical stuff. I encouraged them to go to a library because the librarians would help them. And so,
You mean to do it online? But you can also do it on paper.
yeah, but
also-
they
also
didn't have the
paper
equipment,
submissions,
so
too.
one or two people went to the library and the library helped them fill it out.
But what do we think about, in a random sample of this room, these folks and I not getting anything?
Actually, two households.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were all together. I'm
We
sorry.
are.
No, we
Oh,
are,
we
and
are.
the property next
Okay.
door,
No.
Anyway, so 3 out of, what is this, 10, 12?
Well, how many postcards total now?
we sent out over 800 postcards.
So 800 postcards and how many
89 were
households-
returned.
How many households are there in Clermont? Probably about
1,300 or something like that.
No.
no, it was only about 900.
There's only about 900.
Okay, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, so if you're,
And then a number were returned because they were undeliverable for some
Okay,
reason.
that makes sense, but.
So it's highly unlikely that out of the whole town, you know, whatever percentage you would represent of this group, which is like 20% of our group didn't get it.
Yeah.
That's clearly
Did-
not possible if we sent that many postcards.
did you get your yellow card for voting?
Yes.
Then you should have received this postcard.
Yeah. There's someone else I know who didn't get it.
Well, these two people sitting right here, who aren't as mouthy as I am, but they were.
Well, we apologize that you didn't get
I
one.
can't explain,
Some people picked up the
voter-
paper copies
Yeah.
too. I had quite a few come in and pick up paper.
Is there a website that we can check on a regular basis?
Yeah.
It
Well,
says-
that was an option for taking the survey. The
But
postcard
how
was
does one
given-
know they should look?
You should have gotten a postcard.
It was on a postcard.
It was
Okay, so
on-
the whole thing rests on a postcard.
Yeah.
It's 2018.
Postcard checking.
Or come to the
Or
town
come
board.
to-
Here I am.
Good.
All right, so
I
it
check the
was-
website monthly.
It was discussed at town
The
board
meetings are on there.
It was
Some of us
discussed-
work and have to travel, and that's
It
all.
was on the town website, the link for the survey.
So we should
It
look
was
on a weekly
available on
basis.
paper.
Should we look on a week, like tickle ourselves to look on a weekly basis at the town
It's
website?
been up for about 3 months.
Whatever happened, I'm really sorry, but I honestly think that it's a fluke that you two didn't get the postcard. I honestly do. I think 99.9% of the people in town got the postcard. If you want to take the survey now, we'll include your results.
Cool, do y'all want to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually
Yeah, why
received
not?
two homes.
Yeah.
So
Why
none
not?
of
They're taxpayers.
Received it.
If there's a consensus among this group here, there are taxpayers here who said they didn't get the postcard.
They've already said yes, so what I learned in law
Then
school
if
is
they
when
could
somebody says yes, you shut up.
And I have a question.
It was worth 40,000 a year.
Go ahead with the question.
Okay, isn't there census information about Clermont where you could compare what the census information is compared to what the reply of rate? Yeah.
As far as age and
There-
stuff.
yeah,
would-
but we don't have any idea what the
It would be
800
census
households
data, it would be
comprise.
census data from 2010.
So quite out of date.
It would be,
And the new census is gonna be skewed differently, because it asks citizenship questions.
Right.
So it's not, you're not gonna have a
The
response
same
level.
response. You're saying to use the census to see if this is correct?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah, that works.
But
That would
And
be
then
way
the
out
other
of date.
suggestion is, I mean, the election is coming up. You could have a presentation here of these results and make it available to people that come here that want to, you know, that have
It's not a
voted,
bad
that may
idea.
not have necessarily gotten the postcard.
You know what? We can't do it on
Just leave them on the
election day.
table.
you know what?
Take the survey,
Legal-
excuse me,
You can't
take the
legally
survey
do it, I
now.
don't think.
Yeah,
You can't have
you
no.
can.
If you'd like to fill out, we have printed copies
Yeah,
still?
I can make copies, yes, three, yeah.
And
We can give you a printed copy to fill
all
out.
this is kind of besides the point, right?
But is there a
Statistic-
consensus among this
Excuse-
room, the
sorry.
board and the people here?
Statistically speaking, you got a great response here. And I think the voters, the respondents have shown that they don't want a softball park.
We
Yeah,
want walking trails.
I'd like to point out,
130 respondents from, that's a great sample size.
That's fine.
I think anybody that wants to take the survey and have it added in, you know, the committee is happy to do that, and that's a good thing. But I'd like to point out also that when surveys are taken, you know, throughout the country, they generally take a representative sample. Okay, I think we did get a representative sample, and we also had another survey in 2006, which although the results are not exactly the same, they're very similar.
I agree.
In fact, the walking trails was the high one on the 2006 survey, just as it was on this
More
one.
meek folks.
And we had 199 returns on the 2006 survey, that the survey was actually mailed. It wasn't a postcard, it wasn't done online, it was all done on paper, and they were mailed. The results in both of those surveys, if you compare them, were very similar. Okay, the one in 2006 was actually broader than this. This one is primarily for the park, but there was a section in the 2006 survey that talked about recreation and parks. And the results are very similar, not exact, but similar. Yes.
So, given that, and you mentioned this the other night at the meeting, that our results about walking trails being kind of top priority were very similar to the last survey. Why is it that the town decided to put in a soccer field? Rather than even waiting for the results of the survey that you guys have, you know, funded and that we volunteered to create?
The reason is because there have been people that have asked for, and we've planned on using that area as recreation area for a long time, and granted, the walking trails is the highest priority from the survey and from the town in general, but the youth of the town have a need for recreation, and that's why we had the Little League field put in. We were going to put in a softball field, and then found out that the usage would not be as high as expected, but there was many requests for soccer fields, and in fact, Ray just mentioned this early before the meeting, that the league had asked if our soccer field was ready because the one in Germantown was underwater, or wet at least, I don't know, if it's underwater.
What kind of league? What league?
Southern Columbia Soccer League.
How many respondents were there to this survey?
118.
118 people have asked for something to do with nature and walking trails.
Yeah.
Okay? So you're hearing from a survey that the board sanctioned, okay?
Yeah.
And also, I'd like to say that when this property was donated, I happen to have the Hetling agreement, the deed and the covenant, where it expressly says, the Hetling Park at Clermont, she wanted that sign, and a plaque shall be posted designated in compliance with Clermont zoning laws, that a perennial garden be planted in the southern portion of the premises adjacent to the Clermont Cemetery in an approximate 1/2 acre area designated on Exhibit A. And what is interesting is this survey complements the deed. I just got this up from the web. And it's just interesting how it just all fits together. So you have a lot of people that want a softball field, or maybe soccer, or bocce, that have asked for it. But now there are 100 some odd people who have asked for something else. And my question is, how much money has this cost since this land has been donated? Because I remember when I moved here, it was filled with a lot of stuff. I mean, you know, really, it looked horrible. How much money has gone into this? And I must say that our taxes are going up. And what are we spending?
Well, your town taxes haven't went up in 10 years. So we haven't increased taxes to support
I
any
know,
of
but you
this.
said the last town board meeting that our taxes may go up.
That might be, the county may increase like they have in the past
Okay.
every year, but the town is not increasing
Town has not
taxes.
Okay.
increased taxes.
I just like to say, let me start with, the town park, the town land, when we acquired it, was not supposed to cost us anything. It was supposed to be under a grant, and I'll refresh everybody's memory, that we would be able to use in-kind services, materials to offset the cost of the remediation. When we entered this contract 10, 15 years ago, whenever it first came to light, it was before I got here, that was the deal. So that was a great deal for us because we were gonna get this land for nothing. So we did all the paperwork, we got into what they called the queue for the state to fund this. By the time it came around for the state to fund this, they changed the program. Now, all of a sudden, we were in the program, but now they did away with the in-kind services and matching materials to offset our cost. So we had to come up with 10% of the whole entire project to pay for our portion. It originally started out, it was gonna be $600,000, we were gonna have to pay $60,000, 10% of the project. Then it went to $75,000 on our part, and we ended up being at $90,000. So the whole thing cost $900,000 to remediate this land. Not something we initiated, not something we wanted to be part of. We were in this, unfortunately, from before I got here 10 years ago. So we had to complete this, otherwise the land would never be able to use for anything. It'd have to sit there as a contaminated land.
Well,
So, we went through with that. Now we're finally in the end stages of it. We can actually use the property. Now it's ready for whatever we want to do with it. I'm glad to see the survey came back for walking trails. We have 20 acres to make a lot of trails. We have room for benches. We have room for possibly a pavilion. We have bathrooms. Bathrooms are going to be very difficult because now you need a septic system, you need power, you need, it's quite a bit involved with bathrooms, obviously.
Right.
But
Bathrooms maybe down the road.
there's 20 acres, so I mean, there's more than enough room for multiple uses. The soccer field would be used for the front portion. It's only on the first 7 acres, not even 6 acres. There's 14 acres behind it. As far as moving forward, I mean, the survey is great, but it does not represent the entire town. It does not represent, it represents 15 or 16% of the people that responded, which are heavily weighted between 40 and 80, which don't represent the people that have young children and want recreation for their kids.
but I would like to also remind you that we have 3 school districts. And I know that I wrote down a comment, which is not on there, besides bocce, that if your child goes to a Red Hook school and they're a member of a soccer team, they usually go to the Red Hook soccer team's field.
Good. Yeah.
As in Pine Plains and is in Germantown. So, and then we talked about
And
the
if you're in
bump.
Red Hook, you pay a fortune.
And then we
to
talked
Red Hook
about the
schools.
bump in the population. And you're telling me about all these kids that are moving in.
Yeah, I mean,
It's incongruous. I've been involved with many studies, and I think this is, I must take umbrage of the fact that you don't think this is a good sampling. It's an excellent sampling, because most of the time, people don't answer this. So there was a great deal of interest.
There was a great deal of interest, which is fine, which is great. I'm not saying it, but we also heard there's a bump in population between 18 and 30. Is that the other bump we're talking about? Those people have children, or will have children.
No, there are nationally, but not here.
not here.
Not in
Not
Columbia
here.
County.
They're not,
It's like
they're not,
Old
they
Forest.
don't have jobs, okay, so they're not here. And you know the school population is going down. This doesn't mean that in 20 years it may change. We have some big farms here that may be broken up. And they may have many, many houses on there which may have children in them. But we can't count on that. But as of now, I think that you have to think about what the other people in the community want. You heard from the soccer people. All of the people have responded to this survey. And it can't be discounted.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of,
But doesn't this group just make a priori decisions? I mean, from what I've seen, is y'all just make decisions. These meetings are really just as a salve to have us believe that we have a voice, but we really don't. I mean, y'all just make the decisions, and we have to suck it up and agree. That's it. That's what this is.
Well, this is
And
an
that's what
advisory committee to help
Yes, the
gather
committee to
information.
listen, not to actually make a reasoned decision. I came here for the last one about the noise ordinance. We gathered information, we provided all this stuff, then you all sit with a closed door and you make your decision, stamp, stamp. Doesn't matter what we said. And that's not a great feeling. That's not a great way to do business anymore.
Well, I can tell you there was no closed doors. Everything was decided and talked about in
I
several
was
meetings.
here.
You
I
were here
was
for one of
here.
the meetings. We had
I
about
was
4 meetings on the noise ordinance, and it was open discussion. There was nothing
And the
behind closed doors.
decision didn't seem as if anything I heard discussed was incorporated.
But we did make a noise ordinance.
You did, it was really high. It was.
In your opinion, That's your opinion.
No, I'm gonna give a fact.
You know what,
It was-
I'm sorry,
it was
I'm gonna
sit-
move on.
it
Thank
was
you for your
sit next
comment.
to a vacuum
I've had
cleaner.
enough of that,
That's
okay?
how loud
Thank
it
you.
is. Sit next to a
So,
vacuum.
I'm gonna get back to the discussion about the
I
committee.
understand.
And I am very happy that we
Okay.
had the committee do this for us. We certainly are going to proceed with many of the suggestions on here, and we will do what we can with Grant.
Let me tell you what I'd be willing to do, Ray. I'd be willing to
Excuse
call
me,
all 1,300.
excuse me. You're not going to let me finish? You're going to interrupt me?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I would be willing to call
I'm gonna
all
move on.
1,300 households in the next week and do the survey by the phone. As a stockbroker, I called 500
Go ahead,
people
thank
did.
you. I appreciate if you
Give
would
it
do
to me,
that.
I'll
That
do
would be
it. In
great.
1 week, I'll have it back to you.
Okay.
For free.
I look forward to seeing the results.
Would you give me the names and the phone numbers? I'm happy to do it, 1 week. I can drink coffee like nobody's business.
So we will take the survey. Sure, go ahead.
My name's Paul Clementi, my wife Queenie. We've been in town.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Paul Clementi is my name. We've been in town here for about 4 years, when the red brick house there, the old historic home. And this is our first meeting that we've come to. And we've gotten a general feeling here out in the community that, and I'm not going to cast judgment right now, but the general feeling is that you guys are not listening to your constituents. And what's going on? Why do you think that is? And we're just trying to take the pulse here. What's going on? Why?
Well,
What is the? Let me just one more thing.
Go ahead.
What is the? Why are you wedded to these softball fields if people don't really want them? And I don't want to debate statistics with you. I can get into it, and frankly, I can blow your argument out of the water with your, because you got a great response, really great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's remarkable, actually. It's close to 20%. You're not generally going to get that. So, you know, what's going on? Why are you so dedicated to these fields?
Let me start by answering, it's not our job to take the pulse of the people that show up to the meeting. It's our job to take the pulse of the entire community, as many people as we know and talk to in other areas. So in this room, obviously, it's not a popular decision to move ahead with recreation. There's probably one other person and there are 2 people in this audience that would support it. But going out into the community and talking to other people that we talk to, I talk to several people that want recreation, want stuff for the children, and that is where we're basing our decision on. Now, I really have a hard time seeing opposition to soccer fields. You put up 2 goals, it's grass, you mow it. It's not like it's a big park lit up lights and obstruction and games at night. To me, anything we can do
to encourage our kids to get outside and play on a field and get off the TV and video games keeps them out of trouble. And I just have a hard time that people are really pushing and arguing the fact that we want to put soccer fields in. It's the most minimal, invasive recreation there is.
One soccer field.
One soccer
You're saying
field.
soccer
One soccer
field.
field. I'm sorry. One soccer field. If we look at it and we put them up in a year or 2 or 3 and nobody's using it and everybody's having a fit, we can take the goals down. I mean, it's not like we're putting something there that's going to ruin the environment.
You know what's interesting? I'm not against, I'm not against the soccer field.
Sorry.
I agree, and I'm not here making a judgment. It just seems to be so heated. And this sample here, you know, you can talk about who you talk to, and I think it's great to have a soccer field, but I'm thinking a little bit bigger picture here about if we can't get over this kind of challenge of a soccer field, like there are bigger issues for this town, which we will bring up at some point. But why has it become such a tug of war over? I mean, if you want a soccer field, then let's do the damn soccer field. But you know, I think it doesn't, Raymond, it doesn't really jive with me. This idea of like, you're talking to a few people and they want a soccer field, but the respondents show different. I mean, the focus here should be more about the trails and all that, and then the soccer field. It seems to be flipped. It seems to be upside down. And that's kind of why I just care that you're listening to everyone. And if it shows 20% want the soccer field, I don't really care either way. I just want to make sure that you're going to listen to everyone and not just this, you know, I don't know anyone here really. I know 2 people here, okay? And I know Mary Ellen. I remember her because my mother's name's Mary Ellen. And I remember Bob. Do you remember me, Bob?
Yes, I do.
Anyways, so, you know, I get the sense that there's a little bit of a cabal here going on. And I don't know why that is. Is that true? It seems, you know, when I hear closed doors, you know, I worked on the Hill in Washington. I know what this is all about. Is Clermont mimicking this? Because I'd like to know about it.
No, as Ray pointed out, there's no closed doors. Everything is done out in front. Now, we have gotten input from the committee. It's an advisory committee. We appreciate it. It confirms, in fact, some of what we've planned for a long time. Walking trails have been in the back of our minds for a long time. We were delayed in putting them in because of the problem with the remediation requirements on the property. I would point out that the walking trails are there now. The highway department has been mowing them. They're not, with a good firm surface like we may do with gravel or stone dust or something. We're probably not going to put blacktop in, but they will be improved over time. But the highway department started several months ago mowing those trails. So anybody that wants to walk, and I've walked them a couple times myself, and certain times of the year they were kind of interesting. I mean, there were flowers coming up, wildflowers, daisies, black-eyed Susans. It was kind of a pleasant walk. The committee actually walked the property also, and so it's going on. It has taken a long time. As I mentioned earlier, we had a survey in 2006. There wasn't a lot done as a result of that survey because of the problems with the need for remediation on the property. As far as the soccer field, the front area is a very flat, mowed area that really is conducive to recreation fields for children. And we've had donations, so it's not costing the taxpayers anything to put the goals up. The highway department mows the grass for us. We don't hire outside. They save the town a lot of money. And if it turns out that in a few years that the demographics change and there's nobody playing soccer and there's something else that should go in there, those goals can be moved out in a minute. They're going to be movable. All right? We are moving ahead also with a Veterans Memorial, which will be incorporated into the walking trails. So from the parking area, the walking trail will go up over the hill and down around the back, and we're looking at beautifying the areas with different types of vegetation and flowers and stuff. And I think the survey did confirm that that's the right way to go. And I'm going to let Ray call on the rest of
No,
them.
Phyllis, go ahead,
I
Phyllis.
would just like to reinforce what Mr. Clementi said. Sorry, I don't know your first name. Paul? The reason why I joined the park committee, because I'm interested in the usage of the land. My husband and I used to play tennis. We went to Rhinebeck. I don't really care about the soccer field. I think the point is that what I'm hearing is that the board is not respecting the results of the survey. It was a collegial group. We had a young person named Chrissy Gildersleeve who said, let's do a survey. Zoom. It didn't even have to be voted upon. We all said yes. It was gotten out within 3 weeks or less because we have competent people. And everybody was just interested in the land. We don't care about the soccer field, but just respect what we did. A lot of people, and we live here, we're taxpayers, we vote for you. And the feeling that I'm getting is that you're not respecting our work.
Why do you feel we're not respecting your work? Because we're proceeding with a soccer field?
No, I don't even want to mention soccer fields, but we want to know what's going to be implemented. There are a lot of people who told you what they want.
Phyllis,
Go ahead.
I don't think it's fair to ask them what they're going to do next quite yet,
Why?
because they still have to absorb the information we gave them tonight. Give them a month.
Also, I'm kind of expecting that the committee's gonna be giving us some further recommendations
Well, we're having a
beyond the
discussion,
survey.
Mary.
We're
Right.
going to continue meeting as a group to try to fine tune the focus for what actions really should be coming to the top and how we can be implementing that through grants, through various donations, and what to do next. So still, the committee is going to act as an advisory committee to the board. But to ask the town board to make a decision right now what they're going to do next is unfair.
No, that wasn't the point. Go
May
ahead.
I say that when we initially got together, we weren't told when we were getting the survey put together that there were already plans for the soccer or plans for the Veterans Memorial. And then Bob told us he had a vision for the Veterans Memorial, and he's shared that with us. But we probably would have structured this a little differently by saying, these things are already a foregone conclusion. What other things would you like? And so it threw us off balance. And I think, and so we responded angrily because we thought we were more than just here in an advisory capacity, and we thought that our recommendations and discussion might be heeded, and they weren't particularly. So we look forward to giving you the information that you need to make informed decisions, and we trust you to do it. And we also need to look at the potential of this. And this is the beginning of looking at the potential and following it down the road. And it's not an adversarial relationship at all. I mean, I think it's a beautiful piece of land, and it's right plumb in the center of town. And we really have a very, simple town center. We don't have a lot of commercial use particularly or anything. So it's really a great opportunity. So I think we look at it as potential, but we also need you to know that you jumped the gun a little with us, and everybody was wondering why you really needed us if the decisions were going to be made. So.
Well, I'm sorry for that. I think I apologized before. I didn't realize that the committee was unaware that we were going forward with two things that we said from the start was Veterans Monument and the soccer field. Other than that, we look forward to working with the committee, absorbing your suggestions, and molding the park into the best piece of land that we can for the townspeople.
You have two extraordinary
We certainly
older
do.
garden designers who live within the purviews here, who worked for the Botanical Gardens and one who worked for Martha Stewart. Extraordinary, and over 50, I think over 60, people who I bet would even volunteer some of their time to be able to
Great.
make it.
Has
So
her hand up back.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to
Been
Sorry.
to ask a question for a while.
I couldn't see her. Anyway, I'd be happy to introduce you to them.
That would be great. Thank you. Lindsay, you've been waiting for quite a while. Thank you.
I just had two questions. Number one, related to the committee. I wasn't aware if the committee was ever sort of formally created by the board, and if not, if perhaps there could be some more formality around what the committee is and sort of when you would like us to present recommendations, I would appreciate some process to know that the recommendations will be received and at which point these things will happen, because I think that to the earlier point, that expectation was not made, and so I think we thought that the board was going to wait until we sort of presented the results to make any decisions, and we're unaware of, as has already been said. So sort of, if the board perhaps tonight or sometime soon could create some sort of structure around the committee and expectations for the committee on both sides, that would be helpful. The other thing is that on the survey, if we are going to continue to receive responses on the survey, it is still open. I had to open a pro account for SurveyMonkey to be able to export the results, to be able to make tonight's presentation. You can't, anyways, it's not expensive, but anyways, I think we're gonna overrun our budget for SurveyMonkey, so we should, if we're gonna extend it, we should do that in a formal way, and the board should perhaps establish the deadline, if there's going to be an extension, a new deadline, and if you'd like us to do another round of postcard outreach or whatever that might be, we would likely need some additional funds to do another round of postcards, which wouldn't be hard to do. We have the design files set up and whatnot, but it'll just take some printing and postage.
Just a question, do you see how often new survey responses are coming in online? Like, has it tapered off, or are we still getting a good amount of responses?
It was cut off on the 11th.
It's still open. It hasn't been closed. I don't have that available immediately, but I can let you know. And certainly, I think the idea about doing at the polls, like having postcards available or surveys available, that's a great idea.
We're not allowed to though.
Oh, it's not. Oh.
You can have somebody outside,
Sure.
a certain number of footage away, handing it out. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good idea, but.
100 feet away, I mean.
Yeah,
That gets you off of.
Yeah, it's not real work.
Well, I mean, that might be useful, but I suspect that even if we had 25 or 30%, you would still say it's not enough people. And I mean, honestly, with 118 respondents and only 10 said they want soccer, I don't know who you're talking to, but do you think any of them filled out the survey?
Well, I also took into account that the soccer league that has children from Livingston, Germantown, Clermont, they all play and they use these fields throughout the towns. So Germantown, Clermont, they will use Clermont and Livingston. So, this is not just about the people in town either. This is about the youth in the Southern Columbia. And this is something we support because we joined a park program in Germantown where they allowed Clermont kids to go to the park for a discounted rate. So it's about the youth in the county, to me. So I'm not just taking into account the people that voted in our town, and this is a main reason why I also made sure that I solicited donations to offset this cost so it didn't cost Clermont a dime. So I got donations from, again, I'm going to say it, from Finger Insurance, from Morris Associates, our engineer, our town engineer. Mary actually made a donation, which I was going to mention later. And who am I forgetting? Who's the last one? Freeman Howard, our attorney. So we had full donations to cover the full cost of the goals for the soccer. So I think that's huge. I mean, that shows the commitment of other people for our youth in the county. And to me, it's just, I have a very hard time thinking there's that much opposition about a couple soccer goals and kids playing on grass. I just really don't understand it, to tell you the truth.
So, but I think my point is, if that's what your thinking is and that's gonna be the basis of your decision, then it really doesn't make sense to pay more money to extend the
Yeah.
survey.
Well, if you're trying to extend a survey to stop the soccer goals going in, I would say that's probably not worth it, if that's your idea. I mean, if that's what you're getting at. I mean, you can put the survey out there and get 50% of the people say they don't want the soccer goals, and I would still recommend to the board that we should continue with the soccer
From our
goals.
perspective, this was a totally valid response already, even though a few people said they didn't get it. I doubt if there's that many people who did respond, and it wouldn't have changed the results. But if honestly, if you're saying that, you know, it's not just Clermont, it's beyond, and those people aren't seeing the survey anyway, you have a different basis on which to make that decision than
For the
probably
field.
shouldn't have done the survey in the first place. So-
No, for the soccer field, but for everything else is stuff that we have to take into account, which walking trails, we kind of all thought, and pretty much just proves, was the highest priority of the town. I mean, that's something we definitely are going to pursue. I mean, I think that is the highest priority.
That means it's not the highest priority. It's fine if that, but just, Ray, use the correct words. It's not the highest priority if it comes after the soccer field. It's the second priority.
Takes the longest to do.
It's okay, just it's the second priority.
Actually, the walking trails were there first, they're there
Remediation was the
now.
Priority.
There will be more work
After
done
the-
there.
I got it. I got that.
But that's why it comes
I
back to
understand.
this, is you've
I
got
think that
this
one of the
big
things that
flat
Paul and I
piece
are
of-
both saying is for a level of more rigorous transparency and discussion rather than fait accompli, and then we back in with, you know, whatever it is, a survey or a meeting, to be able to say, hey, that's not really what we were looking for, and you go, well,
You know,
we
we've
talk to other
had,
people.
we've had on the board a vision for the park for several years.
I'm sure.
Okay, which included walking trails, and the survey confirmed that that's a good thing, that the people want that. In the last year or two, I've talked a number of times about pollinator habitats. I've seen articles in papers, other places are doing it. I think it's a good thing, and it complements walking trails, because if you take your kids for a walk through a walking trail, and all of a sudden they see a bunch of butterflies, monarch butterflies flying around, I think that draws their attention. And so these things all complement each other. Different kinds of flowers and vegetation along the walking trails will be good. Benches and picnic tables, which people are asking for, should be put in at different places. Well, some of the older people that may want to walk trail may want to sit and rest for a little bit and then get up and start again. So we've had that vision, and it's been talked about here in the town board meetings for at least a year and a half, I think, right? At least, maybe even more. And the survey helped to confirm that that's a good vision that the board has, and it is a high priority. You know, sometimes the highest priority doesn't get done the quickest, right? But it has gotten done. The highway department took it upon themselves when I went and asked them if they could start to mow, and they said, well, we already had. Right? So that had been done, and I'd invite people to go out and walk it. They're a little rough, some of them a little rougher than others, but it's a nice walk out through there.
Okay.
And I'll shut up, because I think you got some others.
It's
I think Chrissy
gonna,
wants
I
to
just
talk.
want to point out, it's gonna take a lot of effort, time, and volunteers to make this come together with trails, benches, you know, plantings. I mean, that's where all the work is. I mean, that's where we need help, and we're looking for advice, and we're looking for volunteers. You know, I mean, I can't say enough. We appreciate everybody, their input, their help, but I mean, I just really hope this survey wasn't designated to try and stop a veterans monument or a field that we wanted, you know, that we planned on doing for a long time. So I just, you know, I feel the anxiety about this, but that was never, you know, on the table. I mean, this is moving forward. We need help with the rest of this to really put it together to make it a nice park. And I know you've had your hand up for a while.
I think that part of that anxiety comes from, anxiety about the soccer fields in particular comes from the fact that it started out as a softball field, which then, you know, you said exactly the same things about that softball field. Someone needs it somewhere from some league. And that was, oh, no, wait, they don't need that anymore. Now they need a soccer field. So like our trust of that need is a little bit iffy at this point. And if that's something that your people say they really need, tell us that, tell us, to what Lindsay said, tell us that we're putting soccer fields in, we're putting a veterans memorial in, we're wording it exactly the way we want it. These things are not negotiable. But you have to be flexible on the other things. This vision that you have seems to be a vision that is in stone, and it doesn't feel like we can affect it at all. And so if you want us to have input and volunteer, you need to put in stone what is done and be very flexible after that. Otherwise, it's not worth our time.
Well, I hope you realize that we were very flexible, we were flexible on the monument, the wording. I know I went back and forth a few times. Some of it did get changed. Maybe not completely either way, but it did get altered. But I do want to point out, the same soccer league, Southern Columbia, also has the Southern Columbia Little League and Softball League. They found that there was a huge trend of girls that were playing softball that were going over to playing soccer instead. And that's why there is less call for softball. I'm just pointing it out, but that's why they said
where you're coming from, but I just,
there is a big demand for the soccer league now, so.
I would add also on the wording on the monument, it may look to you like it was exactly as we had said in the beginning, but there were some, what I think were significant changes made as a result of input. There were some words that were dropped out, and there were some things that were changed, and I think it's better because of the input from the committee. It may not be exactly what the committee had primarily agreed to, but it is better than it was before the committee acted.
Okay, I'm just asking for flexibility and, for you to listen to us sometime.
We absolutely will. I know you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name's Helen. This is the first meeting I've come to, so it's very interesting. I just want to say, going forward, when you were talking about the property before, you said ball fields. And I think, okay, the soccer field seems like a fait accompli, there's nothing, it's paid for, great, that's fantastic, it's not costing people anything, it's just a soccer field, there's 20 acres.
Mm-hmm.
But I think going forward, it would be nice if, other things like that didn't suddenly appear, a softball field or any other kind of athletically inclined thing without, taking into account the fact that most of the people in the town seem to want to have a nature, conservation type experience there.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's how I see it. This is only my first meeting, so it seems like, okay, that's done. So let's move forward and incorporate other things and tap, there's an enormous amount of talent in the people that live in Clermont. I for one am willing to volunteer. I'm sure many, many other people are too. So let's just try to move forward constructively.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay, one more question?
I just wanted to reiterate that we need a deadline for the survey, and the town board hopefully will establish that this evening, as well as the park committee either needs to be formally established if that hasn't happened already, and it needs sort of a mandate and sort of a deadline for, I think the committee would love the opportunity to present a plan based on these results to the town board. And if the deadline is extended, we can reiterate the results as well.
The committee was formally established. Ray did name members, and you can see that in the minutes from a couple of months ago. I think, Ray, you had the names in there, didn't you?
I do,
Yeah, and there were a couple of people that were added, and there's been a couple of people that were not on the originally named that have been attending, and they're welcome to continue.
And what was the mandate of the committee?
That part wasn't completely mentioned, I don't think, the mandate. But I'm saying, as far as establishing the committee, at one point after the first meeting, I was designated as chairman in the beginning, as a town board member that had been most interested in the park over the years. And I, after the first meeting, asked Mary if she would be willing to be co-chairman. I thought it would be helpful, and she's very good at, she actually is a professional planner.
No,
Okay,
Just
so-
Mary, that Mary.
Yeah, that Mary. And so I asked Raymond to name her as co-chairman, and he did. And since she does email and I don't, she's done an awful lot of work in directing the committee, and I thank her for that. And
You
I
know
think
what?
we'll continue with
Can I
that.
answer that person's, Lindsay, can I answer your question? That we had no mandate, but what I think was significant about the group was that we created our own mandate and we executed it. Okay? And the mandate was to find out what people want. So we created it ourselves. We did. The board had nothing to do with this. We were just a good group of thinking people with lots of talent right here. You know?
But, yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I think they need to tell us what they want from us, because otherwise.
That's
Right.
Yeah.
I think this is good what's been brought up, that
asked
there's
it
a
3
need for
times.
some extra clarity and
Right.
direction.
Yeah.
To pick on the easy one, the date of when we cut off the survey, my recommendation would be we probably cut it off now. Or if you think there's some use in another couple days, I defer to the committee. But I don't think it's likely that we're getting a lot more responses. And 16% of the population, from my perspective, is really good. I've done a little bit of surveying, not a lot, but I know that getting replies to emails is difficult. And postcards, it's harder to write a postcard than it is an email, so I'm really impressed with the amount of responses. So I don't know that we,
The ones that just got filled out tonight. Thank you.
yeah, if we add those in and then cut it off, I would be fine with that. I don't know what the rest of the board.
Right, I agree. I think that the response is great. I really appreciate all the work the committee's done, and I'd be in favor of including the responses you received tonight, and then I think we can cut it off. And I do agree that there needs to be a more formal understanding of what the expectations are of the committee, and that I think will alleviate some of the frustration too if we're all working from a common piece of paper.
So why don't we put together for next month, I'll put together a mandate of what we're looking for, schedule ideas, what we can come up with, and we'll put that out to you guys, get it to you, or even before next month, I can email it around, or get it to Mary, and then we'll proceed with.
Email it to us.
Okay. I'll copy everybody on the list that I have, and then we'll move forward with that as far as what we're.
How does somebody get on that list, Ray?
If you'd like to be on the committee or the email or.
The email, just because I guess Paul and Queenie would like to be on it as well, because we didn't get it, so that just means there was a hole somewhere we dropped out. So I'd love to get on there.
Well, then.
You're thinking of 2 different lists.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I would like to be on both of those lists.
Yeah, I think the committee is
Can you
Big
maybe
enough.
give your email to Mary?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to give your contact information, you actually just give it to Mary Helen, and what we'll do is we'll pass it on along to the board and to the advisory committee.
I think Chrissy had her hand up quite a while ago.
Oh, put her on the spot? No?
Huh?
Mary, do you have
Passed
a survey for this person?
I do.
And give me your name and email.
Let me have one too.
I gotta make another one.
I never filled one out, believe it or not.
Well, my goodness.
All right, we're gonna move on. Committee reports. You ready? Bob?
Yeah. I think we've had quite a discussion over most of the areas that I would be reporting on, but I would like to point out that we have looked at picking a spot for the Veterans Memorial on the north end of the hill and back to the cemetery. I walked up there, I was trying for a while to get Ray and Jimmy Potts, who does the work, and myself together to go up and take a look. And it didn't seem to be working, so I walked up there Friday with Jimmy, and we kind of looked at it and said where we thought would be good. And I called Ray and said, could he come a little early to the meeting? And he did, and some of the others did as well. And agreed, in fact, Jimmy had already started and had cut down a couple of the scrawny trees that we didn't want in the way, and has taken out some of the stumps and is preparing the area where the monument or the memorial will be on the north end of the hill. It will be visible from the parking area and from the cemetery. And just a little bit, if we get the flag up next to it, it'll be visible from over in front of Hardy Roots or the old Hetling farm as you go down the road from there.
Are you making a suggestion?
No,
Or is
he's
it,
saying what it's gonna be.
It's done, they're just sort cutting down trees. You weren't listening to us.
I don't know. We're gonna have a flag and a stone?
There's gonna be a flag too?
A flag? When
Eventually.
did you all decide there's gonna be a flag? Flag and a stone?
I think there's only been a firm decision on the stone, and the thought has been that we would likely want to do a flag. We haven't voted on that portion yet.
When it comes to the budget for this initial project, where's that budget going at this point?
It's coming out of the parks budget.
Yeah, but I mean, how much is, what are you allowed?
What have you allotted?
For the stone itself?
The whole project. The Veterans Project, I'm sure has a budget. What is the budget?
The stone and the flag, we didn't push.
That's the question.
We didn't
That's
price the flag. The stone was what was it, $2,600?
How much?
$2,600, I think it is.
How much?
He's got the exact number.
$26.
Don't hold me to it, he can.
$2,260 for the monument with engraving,
There you go.
and the other is separate foundation.
We did get 2 bids. The other bid was quite a bit higher. And in fact, Cole Rockley actually gave us a 20% discount, which I didn't ask him for. He did that.
No, I'm just saying, part of planning, obviously, is to know how much money, where's it going? And is that where you want to go? That's kind of basic, so.
You're looking forward to the community, the committee and what you would recommend.
Yeah. Well, would it help shape planning?
Right.
And
I think from the town board's discussions, we don't have a firm number. It's going to depend on what you recommend to some extent, but we're very interested in getting as much done through donations and grants as possible. So if you came up with a plan that was a large amount, but could find grants that went with it, then we'd say yes. Right.
In fact, all of the money that's been spent on the park so far, including over in the Little League field, has all been donations and grant money. There's been no taxpayer money, correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, but I don't think there's been any taxpayer money put into that
The
field.
stone is not coming out of taxpayer money.
It's coming out of the park fund, which is made up of donations. And also, when there's subdivisions done, there's a fee that goes with each new lot that's created that goes into a park fund. That's not tax money either, but it's not donations as much as it's required. And just a side remark is it's much lower than many of the other surrounding towns, but we do have money put in as a result of subdivisions.
Well, I'm just thinking that if you're gonna start, laying something out, that the kind of financial ought to be part of that, mandate.
Right.
Just to give us some guidelines.
The cost, obviously, of the Veterans Monument is the stone, and we have the highway department doing the work, so it's not costing us the rest of the work. So the budget is very small for this, other than a pole, which we haven't discussed to fund, but obviously a flagpole is not going to break the bank. So yes.
As far as a budget for the land and the trails and everything, we really don't have anything solid right now. It really depends upon the plan. And, what we can use out of donations to date, what we can also gain from grants too. And it's going to be, a multi-year plan. There's, definitely it's not something that we can do all at once.
May I make a suggestion? You're going to come up with a mandate. And we have one expert on our team who could not possibly be here tonight. And she can shed a great deal of light on what needs to be planted there. And then my friend over here suggested that she has some other people that might want to contribute to this.
Sarah Price, do you know Sarah Price?
No, I don't, I
Okay, well,
don't.
you've met her, I've been at places where you've been with her. So, yes, she was.
So if we're gonna get that maybe together, so you can have an idea of what our thinking was. But the thing is that we've been listening to Amy, and she really knows what can grow there and what can't. And so we're just, whatever she says, we kind of go along with. And then if we can have another expert, this is really great.
I think those are great assets.
Yeah, and she emailed me tonight, but it was I could not print it out, I didn't have enough time. But
I don't know whether, I mean, Joan Davidson, who lives in Germantown, which I can never tell where I live. I feel like I live in.
She lives in Clermont.
She lives in Clermont.
Okay, it's like, I'm in witness protection. My mail comes to Germantown, I come here to Clermont, and I pay taxes to Red Hook. I think that someone has got like I've got 3 different identities. Anyway, I used to work for Joan. Joan was the Parks Commissioner, and she has a foundation called the Furthermore Foundation, as well as she has the Kaplan Fund. So I know that she was interested at one point in a 9/11 memorial. I wrote a book about 9/11 because I lived there, and I gave a huge flag to the Clermont Fire Department that was gifted to me from the fire department downtown because we cooked for them for 6 weeks. And it's in the Clermont Fire Department. It's the signatures of every person who perished in 9/11 on the stripes of the flag. So that's still there if you want it. And I think that something like the Furthermore Foundation, or the confluence of Joan working in philanthropy and in the state parks, could be a way to be able to say, is there a possibility to to do that? And her kids are living there now, her grown-up kids. So.
Can I just add?
Of course.
I mean, on plantings, I really think we need to have an overall plan of what we're actually even talking about before we're talking about what plants we're gonna put in, so
Well, Amy just emailed me a whole,
yeah, I know, I got the email too.
yeah, so.
She's,
Got
we've
Mary
had
wants
some
to-
commentary on.
These are discussions that we should be having
In the committee.
in the
Right.
committee.
I want to say
Let
one
us
more thing
move
about before
on
the
to
committee.
town.
If you already have the town highway people making paths, it shouldn't be that those paths are the paths that it'll be. That's
Doesn't
all.
have to be.
No, I know that. I'm just saying that as somebody who took my 5 acres and made all these paths in there, using consultants as to gully and ground and all the rest of it, stuff that I thought that would be cute if it went there. And then, to hear, no, it won't be.
They're following the farm roads.
Yeah, but that's all.
That's all.
Since we're talking about Fedicom, please, I just would like to believe that wasn't one.
Sure. Okay. You done? Where'd you leave off?
I think we said.
Started with the monument.
Huh?
The monument, you dug the place.
Yeah, the memorial is in process.
All right.
It'll be done. And,
Well, if you and Jim made it out there and got back, God bless you.
We did. And
We're glad we didn't have to come get you.
it's just up the top of the hill, it's not that
I
far. We went early because it was starting to look like it was gonna rain.
love Jim Potts.
He did a great job.
I guess we've had enough discussion.
All right.
Definitely.
Evan,
Sure,
you got any
so,
update on it?
update on the website? So, we've been working on it for, I don't know, 3-4 months now, and there's quite a bit of progress. Ellen has done an amazing amount of work on it. It's really amazing. A tremendous amount of time and effort went in, so I'm really grateful to that. And we're getting to the point where we're about ready to start transitioning content to the beta site. We haven't presented to the board. If I thought about this, maybe we could have done something, but I didn't have stuff prepared. So the plan is that I'll be sharing the link to the rest of the board members to take a look. And Bob, I could show you in person if you're interested at some point. And also I plan to spend some time with Mary Helen, because she's the main contributor to the website beside myself. So that would be to make sure that the new content is in a way that is easily, editable, and you can do what you need to do without it being much trouble. I think it'll turn out easier in a lot of ways, actually.
Okay.
If you want me to be around for that, we could all,
Yeah.
because in case there's something I did that's convoluted or you want to change, you know.
Okay. Yeah, that would be good. I mean, maybe some Thursday or Friday. So we're still ironing out a couple small details, but it's to the point where I think we can have the board members look at it. When you look at it, the content's not going to be, a full mirror of everything that's on the main website, but it should be enough to get a feeling. And if you have feedback about things that you want to do differently, we can take a look at it. At this point, it would be better if it's not something really major, but if you need a link moved around or some oversight, then that would, and then if the board thinks it looks good, then we'll move forward.
Yeah, just to that point, I would just like you to keep in mind as you look at it, it's a free website. I've donated all my time, it's free, so if you want, if you want things different, it's gonna be difficult, so please don't blow it up on us.
Right.
Otherwise, you're gonna have to pay someone to do the website.
All right, well, we certainly thank you for everything you put into it. I know Evans
I'm not trying to-
said, no, certainly, you
I'm
put a
just
lot of time and
saying,
effort into
you know,
it. Thank you.
I think we're going to be pretty happy with it, especially for those who are accessing through a mobile device. The old site is not good at all, and you'll find this much better.
Excellent. Well, there was lots of room for improvement, so I'm sure it'll be much better. All right, thank you, Evan. All right, Chris, you got anything?
No, I just mentioned that I've been working with Mary with some of the old computer recycling. I don't know if we need to get into any detail on that, but just so everyone knows that
Clean them up.
we're working on it.
Working on it. All right, thank you. Dawn?
I just want to remind everyone that there is going to be an Election Day dinner next door. You can find information about it on the town website, and you can always contact Tammy Connolly, too, for additional information.
Excellent.
And I do have it posted here, and I believe I have it posted on the board out front, but I'll have to
It
check
is.
that. It is.
It was.
It was. Maybe after tonight it won't be. We'll see.
Well, let's say the times again. What are the times? I don't know. 5? I think it starts at 5?
5 to
5
7.
to 7.
5 to 7 p.m.?
Yes, 5 to 7. Tickets are $15 for adults. If you want just one serving, a double serving is $20. For children 9 to 12, it's $5. And children 4 and under are free.
I usually just donate.
So there you go. Anybody who wants to come out, and when they come out to vote, please join us for a dinner. You don't have to cook. 5 to 7 p.m. All right, excellent. Bless you.
Press release.
Just moving on to old business. Old business?
Old business?
Any business Phyllis has is old. Look at it.
When is it time for my complaint? You asked?
It's been
Public
the whole
comment.
time.
Public
No,
comment.
no, I just want to,
Yeah, public comment.
complain about something.
That's good. Old business, hail damage. Just want to bring up, as we've talked about in the past, we had hail damage from the storm several months ago. We've had a quote on repairs. We had insurance adjuster come out. We received the funds to repair the buildings. One building that was damaged was not noticed on, that we recently noticed, was the back shed, the metal shed on the other side of the salt shed that was put up. We did not see it at first. I looked at it actually with the adjuster, but did not get up on the roof. We looked at it from the ground. But recently, Jimmy, highway superintendent, has noticed from the inside is much more visible. There's a lot of dents in the roofing material, which we could not see from the outside. So I did actually ask Finger Insurance, our insurance agent, to please get a hold of the insurance adjuster and have him come back out. And that was something they said. If you did notice anything else, please let us know. We'll come back. So I did put the request in, and they are not setting a schedule up to come out and see it yet, but they're going to come take a look at it, and we'll probably end up doing something with the roof on that building. So
Our person came with a drone.
we had
Very cool.
quite a bit of damage around here as
Yep.
well. So.
Not only did they take the pictures of all the roofs, but I made them take pictures of my gardens and send them to me.
Good for you.
Very cool
It was
stuff.
very damaging. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the area had a lot of
I've got
damage.
2 new roofs going up now.
Yeah.
I'm getting 3 to 1.
Yeah, it's awful.
The other old business, DEC bill, as I spoke last month about, we received an additional bill from the DEC, going back to the cost of this project, that we are not committing to paying. They billed us an additional $20,000 for additional funding that came in after their project closeout date that we had. We looked into this. I've actually handed all the billing over to our town engineer to look at this because they're very, much more familiar with the lingo and the language of the bills. I asked them to go through this, determine if they think it's a valid bill, and then we were going to have a meeting with DEC. I have not heard back. I actually heard back from George today. He still has not. He does not have all the information he needs to make that determination, but we have not set up a meeting yet. But I will notify the board when we have either a conference call or a meeting, which I'm going to push for as a meeting, so they can bring the actual physical documents down with them. So, as it stands now, I don't really have an update on that, but we have been billed an additional $20,000 on top of the $90,000 we paid.
Which we shouldn't have had to pay at the beginning.
We should not have to pay. So, just to let everybody know, that is lingering
What will
out
they do,
there.
repossess your land?
If they
I mean,
if they can prove that it's valid
what's the
and we
recourse?
do owe, they can it would void the state contract and we would be on the hook for the $900,000.
And what's the standard deviation for how long someone can continue to come back after work is done?
This is all conversation we will be having.
We've got lawyers?
Yes, we do.
All right.
Which we are not involved yet, but as soon
Got
as
a
we get
nice
into
lawyer
this.
son.
So we will be pushing it. We will be pushing this as when we do have the the information ready to go back at them with. So I'll have a full update next month. I'm sure I'll have an answer. I shouldn't say I'm sure. It's a state we're dealing with. I hope to have an answer by next month. So new business. Just want to first point out that we have another donation for the soccer field.
And who is it?
Mary Helen Shannon, $500. Thank you very much, Mary and Jim.
How much?
$500. I appreciate that. The town appreciates, well, most of the town appreciates that. The kids will appreciate that.
And
All the taxpayers appreciate that.
I have
Thank
two
you.
that are playing soccer currently, so I have to,
There you
little
go.
ones.
So,
Not here, unfortunately.
but yes, thank you very much for the donation. The one I did forget to mention last time when I was rattling off the people that donated, the Southern Columbia Soccer League also donated $1,000. Which I mentioned last month, but I'm going to mention again because I forgot it earlier when I was talking about the engineer and the attorney. Okay, we have a resolution to pass. We had a meeting, well, I guess it was last week, with our town assessor, the county director of real property, and the state of New York ORPS Office of Real Property representative. Last year, our values, we tried to do a reassessment of the town. Cheryl, our assessor, went through updated values, submitted to the state. They didn't take her valuation numbers. They didn't agree with them. They said she was too low. In result, they offered her their opinion and sent back a state equalization rate of 91% instead of 100%, which we've been 100% for several years. So this past year, we were reduced to 91%. It all comes down to the values the state thinks our town is worth compared to what our assessor thinks this town is worth. The only way to rectify this is to enter into an agreement with the state to do a reevaluation, which includes filing, this is what this resolution is about, entering a resolution to have our town assessor do a full reval. She's already done all the data collection because she did that as part of last year, but she can use that information instead of having to do it all over again and use it in this process for this year. We are on a tight schedule, but in speaking with the state and the county, they're willing to help out. We will be able to complete this for next year's values, so we should be able to get back to 100%, which is important when it comes to your tax bills. So what the schedule was laid out to me is after we approve this, if we approve this resolution tonight, which I don't know why we wouldn't, because this is for equalization of the town, data mailers will be mailed out tomorrow. They start immediately. They'll have them printed out and mailed out to every household. Everybody will receive a data mailer in the mail to take a look at your inventory, Say you have buildings that are no longer there, or you put up a deck, or took down a deck, or modified your property, you should be able to check, you write down the list to make sure everything that's listed on there is on your property. If not, please add it in, and she has also gone around and verified some of the stuff, or will be verifying other changes. But that's the first step. Those will have to be mailed back. I think the reception date was, or the receiving date was, I believe, going to be around November 1st. So you basically have about 3 weeks to fill it out and send it back in. If they come in a little later, it's fine. We'll still, she'll still process them, but we're trying to get them back as quick as possible. The review will be done on all of the return documents. They'll be inputted and checked, and then the county is going to do what they call the valuation. We give the county the files of all the information she inputs. They run evaluation through Germantown, Livingston, Clermont, because it's very hard just to do a very small town like ours because we don't have the sales comparables as far as other towns. So they pick the surrounding areas that are comparable, and they use that information as well. So that'll all be done by the county, is what they call valuation. There is a fee involved with that, which we did include in the 2019 budget of, I believe it was like $2,800 roughly. Don't hold me to that number, I have it in here. But they charge that to each town. It's significantly less than any outside company doing this. But they run the numbers, they work with Cheryl, and they provide their recommendation back to our assessor, Cheryl. She goes ahead and compares it, looks through it, and does the final verification, final adjustments on the bills. If she doesn't like what they put in, she can adjust that because she does not agree with them all the time. But by doing that, you fluctuate back and forth, but you keep it within the 100% realm, and that will get us to the 100% for next year. So all that has to be done and completed and back to the state by February. It is a tight schedule. She says she can do it, not a problem. The county says they can do it, not a problem. So it does look like it's going to happen. So that's why I have this resolution this evening for the data collection and property valuations in the town of Clermont. Mary, you want to just read that quick, please?
Data collection and property evaluation, town of Clermont. Whereas the town board of the town of Clermont, in an effort to relieve the tax burden on the residents of the town of Clermont, made a motion on October 1st, 2018, to enter into an agreement between the town and Cheryl Kazluga, town assessor, to perform data collection and property evaluation on appraisals, reviews of taxable parcels located within the town of Clermont. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Clermont has adopted this resolution to reassess for 2019 on this first day of October 2018 at the meeting of the town board.
So
Any
moved.
questions? A motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. 2019 budget. Excuse me, we had a workshop. Well, no, we had a budget meeting. I'm sorry, we don't have workshops anymore. We had a budget meeting a few weeks back to discuss the budget. We went through the 2019 numbers. Very little has changed. I'm going to point out probably the 6 or 7 highlights of the budget. Other than that, it's very similar. The overall budget for 2019
Do we have
is,
Xeroxing issues that people don't have a copy of it?
there's a copy right here if you'd like it.
Great, thank you.
We did not have a lot of copies made, but there is a copy.
Thank you.
Good night.
So this is the tentative budget that we're proposing. It does not have any tax increase. It's the exact same tax rate, well, taxable amount collected as last year. The tax rate actually goes down a very slight little bit because taxable value of the town went up a little bit. So there is no additional tax money collected, but the tax rate went from 49.07 down to 47.50, drop of 1.5%. Total budget for this year, for 2019 that we're proposing, is $756,067. It's made up of the general fund, which is $304,367, and the highway fund of $451,700.
What page you want?
That was just the third page. I didn't label them page by page, but I'm just gonna point out the highlights. Really, the few things I want to point out, we did award a few raises this year. The highway department, as we do every year, they put in for a raise of 2%. We had a discussion on this, and the board agreed to award the 2% for the highway superintendent and our 2 employees. We only have 2 full-time employees other than the highway superintendent. The building inspector, code enforcement officer, was the other one we awarded a raise to.
How much does he get a year?
It's been $7,500 the past couple of years. We changed that back when we did away with the fees. We moved it up to $7,500. We've had a lot of discussion on this. I talked about it quite a bit. The code enforcement officer put in for a $2,500 raise. He wanted to go to $10,000. We talked about that a lot, and I think we couldn't really agree that we were going to award that big of a raise, even though he's doing a lot more work, a lot more hours, and collecting a lot more fees and money for the town than we have in the past. So, but we did agree that looking at other salaries comparable to other towns, we are considerably less. Every town that I know of is over $10,000. Other towns he works for are over $10,000. But we agreed to bump it up to $9,000. It's a $1,500 increase. It sounds like a lot, but for what he's doing, I think we all agreed that it's worth the extra $1,500 a year. And again, he's collected more than his entire salary in the collection of fees and building fees to offset that cost. So it really isn't a cost to the taxpayers because he's collecting enough revenue to offset his costs. So that being said, that's in here. So his budget would go from $7,500 to $9,000 for his salary. One line item that we have under buildings, it shows under our point 4, which is our contractual, which is our maintenance of buildings. We have $20,500 budgeted this year. That is an increase, but that is the money we received from the insurance company for the repairs to the buildings from the hail damage. We received $20,500. So what we did is we included that in next year's budget because we are not going to get to that repair. We're not going to get to the repairs this year. So that money will carry through our fund balance to next year. So we're offsetting that $20,500 for expenditures on fixing the buildings with our fund balance, which basically is taking the exact same $20,500 and paying for the repairs. But it does show as an increase in the budget for building expense. Couple other things, our parks, we not having a plan yet, we're not far enough along to have a budgeted plan of how much money we need for our parks moving forward. We did put $10,000 in the budget for next year, offsetting with the Parkland Reserve funds that we have from donations to pay for the $10,000, so it's not coming out of the tax dollars, it's coming out of our park reserve. Again, if we have a plan that comes back next spring that we need $15,000 or $20,000, we certainly can go back and take it out of the Park Planning Reserve and make an amendment if we need to. But we just wanted to put something in there so we had something to work with going forward for next year. So there is money in the budget to start doing something. The rest of it was in the highway department. The equipment for the highway department, we had a semi-large purchase budgeted. We're budgeting $75,000 under equipment line. Actually, we're budgeting $86,000 total under the equipment line. $75,000 of that is for a 1-ton dump truck, a dual-wheel dump truck to replace the one we have, which is 12 years old. It's having some issues, needs some repairs, and talking to Jimmy about it, it's time to put a new one on the road. So we budgeted the $75,000 for the new truck and the plow to go with that. The other $11,000 is for a new mower head for the tractor, for mowing the sides of the roads, the one that reaches over and mows alongside the roads. So those two together is $86,000. That is also being offset by the revenues coming out of the the highway equipment reserve. We have money budgeted in a reserve account for equipment purchases for the highway department. So that $86,000 is under the appropriated reserves. So that doesn't go to the taxpayers as well. It's coming out of the money we already saved. Last but not least, the last big item that we altered was the amount that we're designated for the
can't speak, the Highway Equipment Reserve Fund. Every year, we've always put away anywhere from 25 on bad years to 35, I think, 40 was the highest we've ever went in the equipment reserves. Since we're taking $86,000 in next year's budget, we decided revenues are coming in quite a bit higher this year. We decided to budget $45,000 for next year to put away. We bumped that up 10,000 from this past year.
Where do you guys put that money?
It goes into the equipment reserve fund.
Where does the money from the equipment reserve fund, where is it invested, or where does it sit?
It goes into our main fund, which is in the Bank of Greene County. It's a municipal money market fund. It's all in, it's designated on paper as separate, but it's all in one fund in the Bank of Greene County.
Right.
So other than,
It's an umbrella fund that you share.
it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
So that is basically all the highlights of the budget, other than a few dollars up and down on some of the some minor line items. But that being said, total amount of the budget, again, I said was $756,067. Total amount to be raised by taxes, $104,580, which is the exact same as last year. We're not raising taxes. And it does show that we are using fund balance to offset the difference of $69,446. This past year,
That includes the 25?
that includes the 25. This past year, just to give you an idea, we budgeted $49,300 roughly out of fund balance. The way the revenues have been shaping up and coming in, we probably will not touch any of the fund balance and probably increase it a little bit because sales tax has been phenomenal this year. I'll say it like I do every time I bring it up. Sales tax supports the town, supports the county. Anytime you can spend money in the county, please do, because it does come back to the county and towns, helps offset our taxes. We're probably going to collect roughly $40,000 more this year than we budgeted in sales tax, which is huge for a small town. It's been really phenomenal. The sales tax is up 7 or 8% from last year, which up last year was up another 6% from the year before. So it's just tourism, local spending. I don't know what the answer is, but it all helps. So that's the budget in a nutshell. Again, the tax rate is going down, so some people may see a little bit of a difference in their tax bill. The amount being raised is the same because the values went up, but the tax rate is 1.5% less than last year. So I don't know how that'll help out in your tax bills, but it's certainly not going up. So that's good news. Not on a town level. So that's the tentative budget. I'll accept the motion to proceed to move this to the preliminary budget.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And what I'd like to do is set a budget, public hearing for the budget for, what is the date next month? November 5th?
5th, yes, Monday.
So November 5th, let's have our, I don't imagine there's gonna be a lot of talk on this. Let's put our budget for 6:15, or 6:45. Public hearing for the budget next month. Okay. Supervisor's report. I don't really have